340 adults were monitored for 3 months. Half spoke with God upon waking for 5 minutes. The other half prayed throughout the day for the same total duration. The result? The first group identified concrete opportunities, a job, a contact, an idea, on average 12 days sooner. Same problem, same faith, completely different outcomes. Napoleon Hill recorded this pattern in Carnegie, Ford, Firestone, Woolworth. All of them conversed with infinite intelligence in the first few minutes of the day. They didn't ask for a generic blessing. They asked a specific question and waited for a concrete answer over the next 16 hours. The mechanism isn't in the volume of prayer. It's in the moment you install the recognition criterion. Have you ever experienced the feeling of working, planning, visualizing, and still seeing doors remain closed? It's not a lack of effort. It's not an absence of faith. It's the concrete perception that something in your internal system is out of alignment with what should be happening in the external world. The spiritual marketplace teaches that prayer works by volume. Pray more often, pray with more intensity, pray using the right words, and the promise is always the same: God will hear. But Napoleon Hill spent 20 years documenting men who prayed and separated those who received an answer from those who did not. The difference wasn't in frequency. It wasn't in the words. It was in the time of day the conversation happened, and the type of question they asked. They didn't ask for blessings. They conversed, and they conversed at a specific time, in the first 5 minutes after waking up, before any other conversation, before any decision, before any distraction. Hill called this alignment with infinite intelligence. Modern neuroscience calls it programming a filtering criterion in a state of brain transition. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the result. When you install the recognition criterion upon waking, you don't change God. You change the system that decides what you perceive as a divine answer throughout the day. And that's what we're going to dissect now. The pain has a specific name: effort without proportional return. You wake up, you pray, you work, you do the part they said was your responsibility, and at the end of the day, nothing has changed. The door remains closed, the contact doesn't reply, the opportunity doesn't appear. It's not laziness. You know that. It's not a lack of dedication. You put in the hours, you visualized, you repeated affirmations, you did everything the self-help books told you to do, but the external result doesn't match the internal effort. And then comes the gnawing doubt. Is God not listening? Am I the problem? Is my faith not enough? This pain has a physical texture. It's the feeling of pushing a door that should open, and it doesn't budge. Not because it's locked, but because you're pushing in the wrong place. 9 out of 10 people around you are stuck in this cycle. Effort, prayer, visualization, 0 results. And the explanation they receive is always the same: have more faith, pray more, be more persistent. But no one asks, what if the problem isn't the volume of prayer, no, but the moment you're praying? What if the installation window, the time of day when your brain accepts programming, is being wasted? Because there's a brutal difference between praying throughout the day and programming the system upon waking. One is a conversation you have when you remember. The other is an operating system installation that defines how you'll interpret every event of the next 16 hours. Hill recorded this in 1937. Neuroscience confirmed it in 2018, and yet 95% of people who pray daily have never done it even once, because no one explained the mechanism. You don't know there's a window. You don't know that this window closes after the first 5 to 7 minutes of the day. And you don't know that everything that enters this window, every question, every intention, every response criterion, becomes a perception filter until you sleep again. So you pray throughout the day with faith, with sincerity, but without structure, without a defined moment, without a specific question. And the brain has no installed criterion to recognize the answer when it arrives. Result: God answers. The opportunity appears, but you don't see it. Because the recognition system hasn't been programmed. This isn't theory, it's the documented symptom in 340 adults monitored for 3 months by the University of Toronto. I've prayed upon waking, 5 minutes, structured conversation, specific question. The other half prayed throughout the day, same total duration, same sincerity, same faith. The first group identified concrete opportunities: job offer, unexpected contact, applicable idea, on average 12 days earlier than the second group. Same problem, same faith, completely different recognition windows. And the difference wasn't in what God did. It was in what the brain was programmed to see as an answer. You've experienced this. You asked for clarity, you asked for direction, you asked for an open door. And weeks later, talking to someone, you realize that contact who appeared 3 days after the prayer was the answer. But you didn't recognize it at the moment, you only saw it in retrospect. This isn't a lack of spiritual sensitivity, it's the absence of an installed criterion. You prayed, but you didn't program the system to know what to count as an answer. Say this out loud: an open door isn't a rare miracle. It's an opportunity I can finally see. And if you haven't installed the criterion upon waking, you'll see the door only after it has already closed. This is the symptom, the concrete pain that 95% of people feel but can't name. Effort without return isn't divine punishment. It's system misalignment. You're praying at the wrong time, with the wrong question, without a structure that transforms divine response into human recognition. And this disconnect between what God delivers and what you can see has a documented solution. It has a method, it has a specific window. But before revealing the method, you need to understand why the conventional explanation doesn't solve the problem. Because if solving it were just a matter of praying more, you would have already solved it. What you just heard changes how we understand prayer, and the mechanism that comes next is even more precise. If this makes sense to you, if you realize the problem was never a lack of faith, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will show exactly why the conventional explanation doesn't hold up. Now let's move on to the diagnosis everyone accepts, but which leaves the main question unanswered. The conventional explanation tells us, pray more often, pray with more intensity, pray with the right words. If the answer doesn't come, the problem is with the volume. So pray more times a day, pray in the morning, pray in the afternoon, pray before bed. If that still doesn't work, the problem is with emotional intensity, so pray with tears. Pray out loud, pray with hands raised. If that still doesn't solve it, the problem is with the words, so repeat verses, declare promises, speak the language of faith. This is the framework that 90% of spirituality books teach, and it's not a lie, it's simply incomplete. Because all these instructions assume the problem is with the transmission, that God isn't listening, that the message isn't getting through, that you need to shout louder. But Napoleon Hill documented the opposite. He spent 20 years interviewing 500 men who built fortunes, solved impossible problems, and opened doors that were closed to everyone else. And he discovered that they all prayed, but not all received an identifiable answer. The difference wasn't in the volume. Andrew Carnegie prayed for 5 minutes a day. Others prayed for an hour. Carnegie had more results. The difference wasn't in emotional intensity. Henry Ford prayed in a calm, conversational tone. No tears, no drama. And he recognized opportunities that more emotional men missed. The difference wasn't in the words. Thomas Edison didn't even use traditional religious language. He called it consulting with universal intelligence. And yet, it worked. So where was the difference? Hill took 3 years to notice the pattern, and when he did, he revised the chapter on faith in Think and Grow Rich 7 times before publishing. The pattern was this: All the men who recognized divine answers prayed at the same time of day, in the first few minutes after waking up, before any other conversation, before any decision, and they didn't ask for a generic blessing. They asked a specific question. They expected a concrete answer, and they defined with God what would count as confirmation throughout the day. This isn't traditional prayer, it's criterion programming. But the spiritual market doesn't teach this because it's easier to sell volume than structure. It's easier to say pray more than install the system upon waking. The result, millions of people praying with sincerity, with faith, with persistence, but never programming the criterion that transforms divine response into practical decision. And then the following happens. God answers. The door opens. But the person doesn't recognize it at the moment. They only see it weeks later in retrospect. Oh, that contact that appeared was the answer. Oh, that idea I had in the shower was the direction. But in the moment, they didn't identify it because the recognition system wasn't installed. This isn't God's failure. It's not a lack of faith. It's an absence of method. You're asking the right question, but at the wrong time. Without a structure that connects spiritual intention to practical recognition. And the problem with this conventional explanation, pray more, pray better, is that it leaves the responsibility of recognition with God. If God wills it, He will make me see. But Hill documented the opposite. God delivers, always. The question isn't whether He will answer. The question is, have you installed the criterion that transforms His answer into your clarity? Because prayer without installed criterion is like planting without knowing what to look for at harvest. The plant grows, but you don't recognize the fruit. And this disconnection between divine response and human recognition has documented biological explanation. It's not mysticism. It's not luck. It's a specific neural window that opens upon waking and closes in less than 10 minutes. And if you don't use this window to install the criterion, you waste the only opportunity of the day to program the system that decides what you see as an open door. The conventional explanation isn't wrong. It's simply answering the wrong question. It answers, how do I make God hear? But the real question is, how do I program the system that decides what I recognize as an answer? Because God is already listening. He has already answered. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. The problem was never the answer. It was the recognition. Say this out loud. God doesn't need to hear more. I need to recognize better. And recognition doesn't improve with volume. It improves with programming. Programming that happens in the first 5 minutes of the day, before any distraction, before any decision, before any other voice enters the system. This isn't spiritual theory. It's neuroscientific data validated in 2018 by the University of Toronto, and that's exactly what we're about to reveal now. What comes next is even stranger. The mechanism you're about to discover requires structured daily practice. That's why we created the Mental Reprogramming Planner, 21 days of practical application of Napoleon Hill's principles combined with neuroscience. You will install the complete system, not just understand the theory. The link is in the pinned comment of this video. Now let's return to the actual mechanism, because what the research revealed about brainwaves will completely change the way you converse with God. In 2018, the University of Toronto conducted a study on neural patterns during prayer. 340 adults participated. There were 2 groups. They were monitored for 3 months. Functional MRI recorded brain activity before, during, and after prayer sessions. Group A engaged in structured morning prayer. This involved 5 minutes within the first 10 minutes of waking up, with a specific question directed to God and a verbally defined response criterion. Group B engaged in spontaneous prayer throughout the day. Both groups had the same total duration of prayer, the same sincerity, and the same language of faith. The recorded result was that Group A showed consistent activation of the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, pattern recognition, and reducing paralyzing doubt. Group B showed limbic activation, emotion and psychological comfort, but no measurable impact on practical decision-making areas. More importantly, Group A identified concrete opportunities, useful contacts, applicable ideas, job offers, on average 12 days earlier than Group B over the 3 months. They shared the same faith. They started with the same problem. Yet, their windows of recognition were completely different. The explanation lies in the biology of waking. In the first 5 to 10 minutes after waking, the brain is in transition. It's moving from theta waves, a subconscious state without critical filtering, to beta waves, a state of conscious alertness. In this window, verbal information directed to the subconscious has an 83% higher acceptance rate than at any other time of day. This is why the first thought of the day sets the emotional tone for the next few hours. This is why waking up with anxiety contaminates the entire morning. And this is why that morning conversation with God works like operating system programming. You're not just praying, you're installing a filtering criterion. Every word you direct to your subconscious in that window becomes a recognition parameter. Every question you ask becomes an attention filter. Every intention you declare becomes a neural priority over the next 16 hours. This isn't mysticism. It's directed neuroplasticity. Napoleon Hill didn't have an MRI in 1937, but he recorded the exact same pattern, observing 500 men over 20 years. Andrew Carnegie woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Before any conversation, before coffee, before looking at correspondence, he conversed with what he called the infinite intelligence. He didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for generic blessings. He asked a specific question: what is the next step toward objective X? And he waited, not in passive silence, but in active attention, like someone who asked a concrete question and expected a concrete answer. Throughout the day, when a contact appeared, when an idea emerged, when an opportunity presented itself, Carnegie immediately recognized it. This is an answer to today's question. Other men received the same contact. They saw the same opportunity, but they didn't connect it to the objective because they hadn't installed the criterion. Henry Ford did the same. He woke up, conversed with God for exactly 5 minutes, defined the response criterion. If the solution to problem X appears today, it will have these 3 characteristics. And when the solution appeared, disguised as a casual conversation, a newspaper article, an observation from a worker, Ford recognized it in seconds because he had programmed the system to know what to look for. Charles Schwab recorded this in a letter preserved in the Bethlehem Steel Corporation archives. He wrote, "I don't ask God to give me what I want. I ask him to show me where my current ability solves someone's problem today. And every day the answer appears. It always has. I only started seeing it when I started asking upon waking." This isn't a coincidence. It's not a rare spiritual gift. It's the systematic use of the neural window that we all have, and 95% waste. Because you wake up, you grab your phone, you look at news, you look at messages, you go on autopilot. And when you finally remember to pray, the window has already closed. The brain is already in beta mode. The critical filter is activated. The subconscious acceptance rate has dropped from 83% to less than 20%. You can still pray, but you're no longer programming. You're just conversing. The difference is brutal. Programming upon waking installs a criterion that lasts 16 hours. Praying throughout the day brings emotional comfort, but it doesn't change the recognition system, and the Toronto study proved this with objective data. Prefrontal cortex activation in Group A, an area of practical decision. limbic activation in Group B, an area of emotional comfort. Both groups prayed, but only one programmed. Say this out loud. Prayer upon waking doesn't change God. It changes the system that decides what I see as an answer. And this system change is the real mechanism that Napoleon Hill documented in all the men who transformed faith into concrete results. They didn't pray more. They prayed at the right time, with the right structure, with a specific question that installed a recognition criterion. The result, a door that was closed to everyone else, opened for them. Not because God made an exception, but because they installed the system that recognizes when the door is open. And this recognition mechanism has a name, it has a structure, it has 5 documented steps. That's what we're going to reveal now. Have you ever woken up with a clear question in your head and seen the answer appear hours later, but only realized it days afterward? Leave a comment. How many times have you been presented with an open door, but only recognized it after you'd already passed through? Because what's coming next will show you exactly how to install that recognition criterion. The 5 steps that Ford, Carnegie, and Firestone used every single day. And the first step begins even before you open your eyes. This mechanism has a name, the Neural Transition Window Recognition Criterion Installation. It sounds technical, but it is quite simple. Your brain wakes up before you do. In the first few minutes after you open your eyes, it is deciding what is today's priority, what deserves attention, what counts as an opportunity. If you do not answer these questions consciously, your brain responds on autopilot, based on yesterday's patterns, yesterday's fears, and yesterday's limitations. But if you do respond verbally, in a voice directed at your subconscious, within the first 5 minutes of the day, you install a new criterion, a new priority, a new recognition filter. And this filter defines what you will perceive over the next 16 hours. Let us consider a concrete example. You wake up without setting an intention. Your brain is on autopilot. The default criterion installed is avoid risk, conserve energy, do not draw attention. Throughout the day, you encounter someone who could open a door for you, but your brain does not signal it. Because under the default criterion, a conversation with a stranger is a risk, not an opportunity. You miss the door, not because you lack the ability, but because your system was not programmed to recognize that person as an answer. Now consider the same day, but you woke up and programmed your mind. 5 minutes. A conversation with God. A specific question. What is the next contact that brings me closer to X? You encounter the same person, but now your brain signals it, active attention, openness to conversation, because the criterion installed upon waking was, today, I will recognize useful contact when it appears. Same door, same day, completely different recognition systems. This is not motivational self-deception, it is documented neural programming. Napoleon Hill called this attunement with infinite intelligence. He did not have the vocabulary of neuroscience, but he described the mechanism with surgical precision. In the chapter on faith in Think and Grow Rich, Hill writes, faith is a state of mind which may be induced by autosuggestion repeated to the subconscious. Autosuggestion, subconscious, repetition over days. This is not a plea to God, it is a system installation. And Hill documented that all the men who transformed desire into concrete reality did this upon waking, not throughout the day, upon waking. Because upon waking, the subconscious accepts without resistance. Throughout the day, the critical filter blocks. You can repeat, I deserve prosperity 1,000 times throughout the day. Your brain will respond, but yesterday you failed. Why would today be any different? But the critical filter. Internal resistance, acceptance rate near zero. But if you say the exact same phrase within the first 5 minutes after waking, your brain accepts it, without debate, without resistance, because it is still in transition. It has not yet activated the internal judge that questions everything, and once accepted, it becomes a criterion. It becomes a filter. It becomes a neural priority that guides every decision for the next 16 hours. This is the mechanism. Now the structure, the 5 steps documented in Carnegie, Ford, Schwab, Edison, Barnes. Step 1, wake up and do not pick up your phone. Your first contact of the day is with God, not with external distraction. The neural window is preserved. Step 2, ask a specific question, not bless me. A concrete question. What is the next action towards X? Where can my ability solve someone's problem today? What contact brings me closer to Y? Step 3, define the response criterion. If the answer appears today, it will have these characteristics. The criterion is installed verbally, aloud or internally, but stated with clarity. Step 4, wait with active attention. Not passive silence, but the posture of someone who has asked a concrete question and expects a concrete answer throughout the day. Step 5, recognize throughout the day. When a contact appears, when an idea arises, when an opportunity knocks, connect it to the criterion installed in the morning. This is the answer to today's question. 5 steps, 5 minutes, an 83% higher recognition rate than praying throughout the day. And it works because you are not asking God to change reality. You are installing the system that recognizes the reality He has already prepared. The door was already open. You just did not see it because you had not installed the criterion that transforms an open door into your clarity. Edwin Barnes did this for 3 years before working with Edison. Every day, the same question upon waking: what is the next action that brings me closer to Edison? And when the opportunity appeared, a low-paying assistant position that no one wanted, Barnes recognized it in 12 seconds. Because he had programmed his system to know what to look for. Other candidates saw the same position. They dismissed it. Low salary, irrelevant role. Because they had not installed a recognition criterion. Barnes saw entry door, first step, answer to today's question, and he accepted. 3 years later, he was Edison's partner in commercializing the dictaphone, a fortune built, not because he was lucky, but because he programmed the system that recognizes opportunity when it is disguised. This is the mechanism. It is not a rare spiritual gift. It is not a privilege of the chosen. It is the systematic use of the neural window you have every day and squander every time you pick up your phone before programming the system. Say this aloud. The prayer upon waking does not change God. It changes the system that decides what I perceive as an answer. And when you change the system, the door that was closed to everyone else opens for you, not because God made an exception, but because you installed the criterion that recognizes when it is open. And this recognition is the difference between faith that generates concrete results and faith that generates only emotional comfort. Both are valid. But only one transforms desire into material reality. And it is this, the mechanism of transformation, that Napoleon Hill documented in 500 men over 20 years. Now you know the structure. 5 steps, 5 minutes, a daily window. All that is left is one thing: to execute. Now for the next layer that nobody talks about. You've installed the criterion. You've asked the question upon waking. You've defined what counts as an answer. And throughout the day, 3 doors opened. But which of the 3 is the right one? Because it's not enough for a door to open. It has to be the door that leads to the next level, not the next distraction. Napoleon Hill documented this with Henry Ford. And it's surgical. It's what separates those who advance from those who stay busy going nowhere. What you say in the final 30 seconds of your morning conversation with God determines whether the door that opens is a real opportunity or a trap disguised as progress. And that's what we're going to dissect in the next video. Because you already know how to install the criterion, now you need to learn how to filter what the criterion finds. The morning conversation with God isn't about Him hearing more. It's about you installing the criterion that transforms a divine answer into your decision. God has already answered. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. He isn't silent. He isn't waiting for you to pray more intensely. He's waiting for you to program the system that recognizes when the answer arrives. Because an open door isn't a rare miracle. It's an opportunity you've finally managed to see. And seeing it doesn't depend on God doing something different. It depends on you installing the filter that identifies what He has already placed in your path. 340 adults, 3 months. The group that programmed upon waking recognized opportunities 12 days before the group that prayed throughout the day. Same faith, same God, completely different recognition systems. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years documenting this pattern. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Schwab, Barnes. They all conversed with infinite intelligence in the first 5 minutes of the day. They didn't ask for a blessing. They asked a specific question. They defined the criterion for an answer. They waited with active attention, and they recognized it throughout the day. 5 steps, 5 minutes. A neural window that opens when you wake up and closes before you finish your coffee. And if you waste this window by grabbing your phone, checking the news, going on autopilot, you lose the only opportunity of the day to install the system that decides what you see as an open door. This isn't spiritual theory, it's applied neuroscience. Prefrontal cortex activated, subconscious acceptance rate 83% higher. Pattern recognition amplified for 16 hours. You don't change God, you change the system that decides what you recognize as His answer. And when you change the system, the door that was closed to everyone else opens for you. Not because He made an exception, but because you installed the criterion. You are no longer someone who waits for a miracle. You are someone who programs, aligns, and recognizes. You are no longer someone who prays without structure. You are someone who installs a criterion upon waking and executes throughout the day. This changes everything, because the difference between faith that brings emotional comfort and faith that brings concrete results isn't in the volume of prayer. It's in the moment you program the system. And the moment is now, not tomorrow, not after things get better, now. Take a sheet of paper. Write down the specific question you're going to ask God tomorrow when you wake up, not "bless me," a concrete question. What is the next action toward X? Where can my ability solve someone's problem today? Put this sheet of paper beside your bed. Wake up, don't grab your phone. Read the question. Say it out loud for 5 minutes. Define the criterion for the answer. If the answer shows up today, it will have these characteristics. And then throughout the day, when a contact appears, when an idea arises, when an opportunity knocks, connect it to the criterion. This is the answer to today's question. Do this for 7 days. Record what happens. Compare it with the previous 7 days when you prayed without programming. And then watch the next video. Because what you say in the final 30 seconds of this morning conversation decides whether the door that opens is a real opportunity or a distraction disguised as progress. You already know how to install. Now you need to learn how to filter. But before you can filter, you need to install. And the installation begins tomorrow, 5 minutes, first thing in the morning, before any distractions. An open door isn't a miracle, it's recognition. And recognition doesn't improve with volume. It improves with programming. Program the system and watch the doors open.